Hey everyone, I'm stoked to be here and talk to you about domains and DomainFi. So before we begin, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Inder. I'm the VP of Product at D3. D3 is a company that's bringing domains on chain in a manner that's maybe like a little surprising and different to a lot of you in the audience today. You think of domains, you're like, oh, this has been done, this has been around. But before we get there, let's talk about the company. A lot of us have been in the domain industry for many, many years. So when I say domains, think like, Namecheap, GoDaddy, .com, .ai. A lot of our founders have built domain companies over the past 20 years, have been, invented protocols like parking, domain-backed revenue. And that is why, we are so excited to bring domains on chain. And the excitement is shared by our investors. We recently closed our Series A. We're backed by Paradigm and Coinbase Ventures. But what a lot of people don't know is we're also backed by Namecheap. It's a very traditional Web2 company, no different from GoDaddy, that's excited to work with us to figure out how can domains be on chain. And I think that's, to me, is a very positive signal, because we always say, hey, how do we grow the pie? How do we ensure that more people are able to access Web3 in a manner that makes sense? And we're doing this through Doma Protocol. So let's talk about why are we so passionate about the domain industry? So back in the 90s, .com came into existence. It was VeriSign, and rest is history. Anytime anyone on earth starts a new company, the first thing you do is you think of a domain for your business. Anytime I say a domain name, let's say chat.com, it's worth something. You don't know how much it is worth, but it's a non-zero asset. So there's this mental programming where you already know that there is some demand for these things in the world. And this is how the domain industry began. As the .com boom started to pick up, people realized this is digital real estate. People ended up squatting every single domain on earth. That's why every time you go look for a domain, you don't find anything, because people started investing in domains. People would go buy out domains in the hope that at some point I will be able to sell it. No different from you investing in real estate. Oh, this city is up and coming. Maybe I'll buy some property there. And that's basically what happened to .com. But then in 2012 was the first TLD auction. This is when .app, .fun, .cash, .finance, .xyz, all of these extensions came to life. And all of a sudden, we had an aperture of brand new investments that could happen. People started to get creative. They started to think, hey, how can I make money off of this new asset class? And that's when the domain-backed revenue started to pick up in the Web2 industry. In our mind, now is the time to use domains as digital composable assets. That's what, in my mind, Web3 is really good at. Everything we think of Web3, we are like, oh, permissionless, decentralized. But over the last few years, we've seen rise of stablecoins. We've seen rise of semi-permissioned assets coming on chain and dramatically changing how we use them, how we access them, and how we tap into the value brought by this asset. So this is why we're very passionate about this industry. In my mind, what's the criteria of an industry you want to go after, right? So I've been through, this is my 7th startup. I'm a sucker for pain. One thing I've realized is you got to go after an industry that's big. You have to dream big. And you want to have a strategy to go dominate that industry. So for us, the biggest criteria is it's a mature market. It's a huge industry. GoDaddy, Namecheap have billions and billions of dollars of market cap. The trading volume on a Web2 industry that has 20% fees, 2-month settlement is in billions of dollars. That's an industry that's ripe for picking. So it's a mature market, and it's already backing a lot of yield on the Web2 side. But the best part is it's a fully digital asset with a custodian built into it. So it's not wine. I don't have to worry about a seller. It's not a sneaker. It's a digital asset. And you already trust the registrars to hold on to your domain. When you go to Namecheap and you buy a domain, abc.com, you always are super stoked that this is a real asset that's never going to get rugged, from you. In addition to this, there's a lot of motivator demand. What does that mean, right? So think about it. Over the last 10, 15 years, if you've ever logged into any registrar UI, what new product have you seen? Like nothing. We are still selling the same thing. Oh, do you want hosting? Do you want email? That's it. There is no other products you can buy. And if you buy a domain on any registrar, it's pretty much useless outside of it. So there is no use cases for domains in these old school registrars. And why is that? So at one point, we're saying this is a very highly lucrative financial asset. And then on the other side, we're saying no one's building on it. And why is that? And the reason that is the case is because of limited dev access. So why are there no startups that use domains? How do you use a domain? Do you first integrate a GoDaddy API, then a Namecheap API, then another registrar API? That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. This is what Stripe truly changed in the early 2010s, right? Stripe came in, and you're like, I don't need to go integrate with 10 different partners for taking my payments. I put one SDK, and I'm done. And to me, that's blockchains, right? I put something on chain. All of a sudden, every single dApp can use that asset without even thinking. That's the beauty of blockchains. So if we bring this asset on the chain correctly, then all of a sudden, we've given every developer on Earth access to this domain as a composable, programmable asset. On top of that, you have no overlap with fintech. An asset that actually has financial value, why are there no financial tools built on top of it? And what is built on financial tooling? Web3. Similarly, archaic systems. I'm still writing XML. I'm still uploading files to SFTP. I don't think that's the way we should be coding in 2025. But wherever there's a problem, there's an opportunity. In my mind, that's the most important thing that I take away from it, right? It's a big industry. It's a mature industry. It's an industry suffering from a lot of issues, and that's exactly the industry I personally want to go after. It's not yet another same product, rinse and repeat. It's a brand new industry that's completely not taken over yet. So this is our goal, is to bring domains on chain in a manner that actually makes them useful in DeFi. So what does that entail, right? It entails two main things, or four main things, but split into two parts. First is ownership. What does that mean? Web 2 and Web 3. I send you a domain on chain, it moves on your Web 2 account. So it moves into your registrar's account on the other side. You do the opposite, it moves on the Web 3 side. I renew it on Web 2, renews on Web 3. I renew it in Web 3, renews on Web 2. There should not be two assets. It's one asset sitting in two different places, but it is the same single domain. It doesn't matter where. The other ownership synchronization is actually compliance. At the end of the day, it is a semi-permissioned asset. So what that means is, on a compliance side, what happens if there is a lawsuit? What happens if there is some other point of failure? Can a registrar that you already trust come in and do something on it? In addition to that, the life cycle, right? Let's say you tokenize a domain, and then the domain expires. What happens to the NFT in that case? You can still go back to Namecheap, and you have typically 7 days to renew your domain. So the blockchain cycle is not tied to the domain cycle. And that's just one example. After those 7 days, what happens while it's with the registrar, but not back on the market? Where's your NFT? What wallet is it sitting in? Who will sign for it? None of us know that. So our protocol solves and abstracts all of those things away. The next is cross-chain. This is like a big one. I want my domains on Solana. I want my domains on Ethereum. How do you do that? So our protocol, and I'll actually just move to the next slide, kind of makes sure that that is how it actually works. It's a system that accounts for where the user or the registrar wants the domain to sit. So the beauty of the protocol is it's not operated by D3, DOMA, or anyone. We actually take the registrar's keys and deploy them on-chain. So think of it, it's actually operated by the registrars. So for being like a semi-permissioned asset, none of us can actually control it. So if you're with Namecheap and Namecheap decides to use the protocol, Namecheap's keys will be deployed in all these contracts on every single chain. What that means is we can go away, public blockchains won't. Namecheap will always be able to sign and operate their domains without any other person being able to prevent them from doing so. So we try to stick with that approach. We do provide certain SDKs that help facilitate on-chain transactions, but this still requires signatures from the registrar. That being said, the domain is typically kept on Doma chain, which is an L2, as the source of truth. So think it's like the state of the union, right? Where is the domain? What chains it's sitting on? What's the derived assets that have been doing there? So I'll take an example. Let's say I own Inder.xyz. I'll have a pointer here, but the actual domain might be sitting on Solana. So we have a GMP that does the secure message passing that will send the message to Solana. The Solana program will actually then be listening to the messages, which is, in this case, the Solana program, and mint the token into my wallet on Solana. Now, let's say I say, hey, I'm the user. I want to go renew the domain. I can issue the message on any chain I want while the token state is coherently put in this program right here. What that means is, one, you can do all operations on all chains, so we're chain agnostic. Two, it's secure. You don't have to worry about hey, how is the domain being bridged? What happens if I take this domain and put it in a DeFi contract? The protocol guarantees as soon as you do that, the state of the domain is locked. So what that means is, let's say you have a domain Inder.xyz, you take a loan against it. Now you can't go back to Namecheap and transfer the domain out. Same way, let's say you fractionalize it. So I own chat.com, worth a lot of money. I'm going to create some fungible tokens. Now you have ERC20 tokens sitting on, let's say, Base. What happens after that? So who renews the domain? Who has access to renewals? The protocol will manage all of that without you having to worry about that as a developer. And all of this is done all on chain. So all the data that we use, we actually put it on chain. There is no off-chain database tracking state or anything. Our goal is every registrar, every domain, all its state to be fully on chain and not anywhere else. So, this is kind of leading into what we are here to talk about today. Personally, we have launched a developer program. You can scan that QR code after this. We're asking developers to come try out our SDKs, our smart contracts right now. So we have SDKs pretty much in every single thing here. So you can do the ownership minting, flexible ownership models. You want to rent out the DNS while keep the ownership of the domain. You want a dual ownership or domain. All of this can be done on the protocol. You want data, subgraphs, across all chains, across all domains. It's all on chain, and also available through our APIs and subgraphs. In addition to that, we recently created an order book. It aggregates most of the major marketplaces, and will also have support for the fungible tokens in the future. And obviously, on-chain resolution, we want to make sure these are the names that work both on and off-chain. When you go to Amazon.com, you know exactly where you're going. There is no doubt in your mind. There is either a A record, CNAME record, or there isn't. And that's the level of confidence we want to bring on chain. So this is, I'm going to like run through this a little bit. That's kind of like a little bit of a UI that we have. It's live today. You can go to start.doma.xyz and play around with it yourself. But the main thing is like it's basically cross-chain and cross-registrar. So every single registrar on every chain. We also have all the docs out. This is actually out of date. We also have the fractional contracts and the fungible contracts on the docs now. But you have the subgraph, the marketplace API, all the smart contracts published on chain now. Like I said, we've been in the industry for many, many years now. And one of our like core areas of focus is that, hey, as part of being in the industry, we've gone through a lot of pain. And again, like going back to my startup experience, we want to make sure that we build products that actually solve a pain point for someone, right? Not just like random like solutions. So we've compiled together a list of ideas that are either a big pain point today across Web 2 and Web 3 for domain companies, or are just cases that are unlocked now by being on chain. To support those ideas, we're also like launching our Forge program, like I mentioned, for developers. Would love to kind of like have you guys come in, apply, and join us in building it. And that's all I had for you guys. I'll be around if you have any questions. Would love to like chat with anyone here and like answer any questions you have. Thank you so much.